Hey guys, I hope you're all doing really well. Today it's another book review, and this time it's gonna be Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. This is a nonfiction, and it's generally about rich people, successful people, smart people, people who are on the fringes of society in a positive manner, and how they're not responsible for their own success, and how context matters, how their family backgrounds matter. And he goes through a lot of different examples to try to show you that. He sort of breaks you into this concept of how the littlest things in the background matters by going to the roster for the Canadian hockey teams and looking at the birthdays of the players who are being picked. And he noticed that the majority of the people have their birthdays in the earlier months in the year, like January, February, and March. And the concept of relative age comes in, and you realize that the month that you were born in, something that you have no control over, is such a central part to these people's success. Then he goes into a lot of other different examples of people that you've probably heard of. The Beatles, might have heard of them, and Bill Gates. Malcolm Gladwell expands this to not just your birthday, but also your family background, your heritage, and your cultural background. I don't think that he's trying to make it seem as if your personal characteristics have no bearing on whether or not you succeed, but he really focuses on the importance of your environment and the context in which you grew up and the effect that that can have. I thought it was a really interesting read when I was going through the book. Now that I'm looking back on it, it seems like there were a lot of examples, but it didn't feel like that when I was going through it. But as a psych major at a college that teaches psych as a very strict science, strange, I know, that part of me kicked in and I really wanted to see some statistical background or statistical analysis, or even just some more data, even though he does sort of address that in the book by saying how this effect is so prominent that you don't need a statistical test to see that there is that difference. But I wonder how many examples that he left out that could have refuted his point. And I wonder if there's a significant amount of that would leave his theory irrelevant. But an interesting tidbit, my behavioral analysis professor actually mentioned this book in class, as my professor was talking about Beyond Freedom and Dignity, which is a book written by B.F. Skinner, who was a very prominent behaviorist. He asked the class if anyone had read Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, and then he said, this is basically the same book, except packaged much more nicely. That blew my mind because one of the biggest behaviorists of his time wrote a book that became stowed away after a while as cognitive psychology came on the rise, and how we can have a best-selling book and have that send the same message. Overall, I thought it was a really interesting read, but after looking back on it, I do feel like I'm not convinced by his thesis and the evidence that he offers. Please let me know what you think, because it's definitely something that has got me thinking, at least. Anyway, that's it for this time, and I hope you guys have a great day, month, year. I'll see you guys next time.